I'm Owen Banham. I'm from Ottawa. I'm 19, and I play for the Ottawa Wolves. It's an honor to be able to talk to you too as well. That's awesome. My first question is, do you think the sense of community in the sport of rugby is different than others? And if you do, why?
That's a good question. First of all, it's really nice to meet you, Owen. So
Thanks so much.
joining the call. I'll speak for myself, and then I'll let Paige say her thoughts. But I think that I tried a lot of different sports growing up. Like I played tennis, snowboarded, basketball, flag football, like a lot of different sports. And I have to say that rugby is very unique in its community. Like I was drawn, I think, by the people right away. And if you take like the people out, just the sport in itself just requires such diversity. Like you need the strong forwards in the front to like take those big hits and win those scrums and get momentum, because you can't win a game if they're not dominating in those areas. And then in the backs, like I've always been the smallest person on the field, and you need such different variety of skills and people. And so I think by nature rugby is so inclusive. And then if you take the elements of like combat and like traveling the world and just going on the field and protecting your try line with a person to your left and to your right, like putting your body on the line, just builds really different bonds than other sports, in my experience. And so I would say that yes, the rugby community is very special that way.
Yeah, I completely agree with Elissa. I definitely think it's different. I also played a lot of different sports growing up, and the diversity and inclusivity of rugby, I do think is unmatched by nature because of the sport. But it is also just that culture that like you can beat the crap out of each other for 80 minutes and then grab a beer and chat with the person who put you on your back several times throughout the game. And there's always been like a foundation of trying to understand each other and grabbing a beer and learning about each other, like what makes each other different and what makes each other the same. And I do think the culture lends itself very easily to being inclusive of the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah, totally. I just aged up to 19, so I'm just at the beer drinking stage as well. And I remember growing up, my dad played old boys at that point. He's 51 and still playing, and seeing that kind of, even off the field, the community and coming together afterwards to spend time with one another and get to know. It's not like any other sport I've ever played. Mm-hmm. And then if we have time for my second question, I was just going to ask if rugby has helped you solidify and build your confidence and identity.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's crazy. I just don't, how do I say this? I just don't think, I genuinely do not think that, I didn't think as a child I could ever be just truly authentically myself 100% of the time. Like always being careful, especially when I was first coming out, about making sure like everyone in the room was comfortable with it first, and then I would come out. And now I know that this is something that I should be accepted. And so I lead heart forward, and like me being part of the LGBTQ plus community, it's on my sleeve. And because I'm able to constantly be genuinely myself all the time, and the rugby community has never ever shunned me for being anything that I am. I've just grown in confidence since joining the rugby community.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's such a good question, and I agree with Paige. I would even add, like, instead of turning their back on differences, they celebrate differences, like the rugby community in general. Like that's how I felt. And we're a bunch of weirdos. Like we put our body on the line and throw our bodies into other bodies for fun, for a sport. And so I think that rugby just accepts all the weirdos that didn't necessarily find their place in other sports, or were just, pulled into the community for any reason. But I think if you want to work hard and work for the people beside you, like you've got a place in rugby, which is a really beautiful thing.
That's awesome. Thank you both so much.
My name is Willow Clark. I'm 17 years old. I use she, her pronouns, and I am from Bedford, Nova Scotia, and I play for River Lake RFC.
It's really nice to meet you, Willow.
So Nice to meet you guys too. So my question for you guys, I know you've talked a lot about how the younger generation has helped like you guys like helped like your journey and how they're like out and proud and stuff, but what would your guys' advice be to like people who are coming out or people who are like struggling with their sexuality?
Do you want to go first, Paige, or do you want me to take it?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. No, I think it's a good question, Willow, and there's obviously like not one answer to it. I can speak to like what helped. Like I remember to this day, I remember being terrified, what will people think? How will people react? And sometimes, the scariest people to tell are the ones closest to you, because if their reaction is, different to what you're expecting, or, like you play out the scene in your head, and that can hurt a lot, and you're going to be very vulnerable in that moment. And so when you're vulnerable, like things can either go kind of two ways. Either it's really positive or it can be hard. And so I think for the most part, in my experience, like the really important people, like the 80-90% of the important people, like all the reactions were really positive. And so I think that the first part can be hard, but in the end, I don't think I could have been happy without doing it, obviously. And so the positive and the me being myself outweighs the negative parts. But I know, like, even coming at a younger age, sometimes friends and teenagers aren't equipped maybe with receiving information like that the right way. And so we all have to be cognizant of that and trying to help those conversations. But it won't go perfectly, but just being yourself is ultimately, down the line, give it a few years, it will pay out and it will be a much better experience.
Yeah, that was definitely my experience has been similar to that. Coming out, I've been able to be a fully happy version of myself coming out. Like I was in the closet for a few years, and it impacts almost every part of it. Impacted almost every part of my life not coming out, because I was living a half life between like my family and the friends that I was out to and the friends that I wasn't out to. So coming out has made a really big difference in my life and living genuinely the way I want to live it. The only thing is, like, it's obviously a very, very individualized scenario whether or not you can come out. Like, I was very lucky. I had amazing friends and a great family who was willing to listen and try to educate themselves and understand me coming out and me being gay. But I do also recognize that it's not always like that for everybody. Like, you have to make sure that you're safe when you come out and you have a support group that you can lean on. And that is a great thing about not only the rugby. There are a lot of parallels, I think, between rugby and the LGBTQ plus community. And one of which is that, like, both of those communities, we often have like a chosen family. So we have like our chosen rugby family and our chosen like LGBTQ family. And so I think like that is really nice. And like knowing that you can always lean on the rugby community and you can always lean on your gay friends. And I think that is a huge thing for rugby players who want to come in.
I know for me, it was the scariest to tell the people I was closest to. Like, if I'd met somebody like and I didn't know them, I was like, oh yeah, like I can, talk to them, because I didn't feel like it was that like not that their opinion mattered, but that if someone was so close to me, it was really hard because I valued their opinion. But I think, like, when you guys said, like, I don't think I could have been like happy if I hadn't. Like, now that I have come out, like, I feel like now that like I can truly be myself and I can like be fully happy in it. And I think it's like amazing that you guys are like doing this and like helping people, because I know like 2 years ago, if I had have seen this and I had have like seen people who I looked up to doing this, like I would have made myself like feel really reassured, and that like I had people out there even at the time that I think I didn't. Yeah, so that was my only question. You guys answered all the other ones. And you guys talking was just really amazing to watch. So thank you guys.